What kind of volume did you expect to get with this air route?
We're going to bring in 300 kilos every month.
Okay.
And I mean, that was like, that's not the route with Nicaragua. This was the route from Bolivia, Colombia, Nicaragua into the United States. But here's the thing, 300 kilo, we're only putting up 150, 1.5 million,
right?
And getting another 1.5 on credit. Right. Now you take that 10,000 and it was going to cost me $6,000 is what I was paying the pilot because I hired a whole crew because Manny would not let me have any of our transportation. I hired this whole crew through Mel Kessler.
Yeah,
introduced me to a guy named Harold Rosenthal. And so we were going to have $16,000 a kilo in the United States already.
So you're making, and you basically stood to make a $50,000 profit per
on
kilo.
Each one. And half of them were on credit. Didn't even have to have our own money.
That's incredible because 300 kilos now is like kind of small potatoes. These are like 1,000 kilo loads. But the difference is the price was so high back then that you could make off of 300 kilos what it would take somebody now flipping 2,000 kilos to make.
Yeah, exactly. It's just a lot more. So, but what ended up happening, so I was at the airstrip in Colombia when I called Sal, because Sal was in Bolivia waiting for the airplane. When I called Sal to ask him, to tell him that the airplane was leaving that next day, and he told me, hey, they f*** you. The money, the kilos that they were supposed to have on credit, they don't have them on credit. The only thing is here, I had taken 1,300,000. All they had was 130 kilos that you paid for. So I decided I'm going to go on the airplane to Bolivia and strain them out. Here's a 22-year-old kid, a punk.
Yeah.
I hadn't even turned 20. I had just turned 23 2 weeks earlier.
And you had braces.
Yeah.
And
so I'm going to go straight out a guy that's overthrown 4 governments, right? That's how crazy you become. Well, got to Bolivia. They told, hey, listen, the next load, and I thank God it was providential because I would have ended up owing 1.3 million because it went down. But they ended up saying, hey, the next load will give you the whole 300 kilos on credit. Yeah. So everything was fine. So now I didn't have enough time to get on a commercial flight to Nicaragua to make my meeting with Somoza. So I ended up saying, I'll just go on the airplane.
Yeah.
Nothing can happen.
Which was a mistake. You went on the plane with the Coke in it.
Yeah. And when we got to Colombia and Manny saw me on the airplane at that airstrip, he went nuts.
Yeah. He was furious. He didn't want you anywhere near the work.
I had never been around it.
Yeah.
So he went nuts. And I'm like, Manny, nothing's going to happen to me. And so I got on the airplane, and unfortunately, both alternators were out. We couldn't get the jet fuel out of the inside. We have bladders inside to give us the distance from Bolivia to Colombia, and then from Nicaragua we were coming into Fernandina Beach right here in Florida. So we didn't have enough fuel, and when both alternators went out, we crashed over the jungles of Panama. We went down at 5,000 feet.
Did you think, were you free falling or were you gliding?
Oh, yeah. No, we glided for a while, but after a while, you don't glide anymore, right?
You
go down. Yeah. You can see the pictures, the DA picture. The airplane is, we thought we would die. There was no way. We'd crash and all that fuel would just blow up.
Yeah.
So
you buried the keys. You
didn't bury them because we had to jump off the airplane. So we knew no one, unless they brought a ladder, they couldn't get inside the airplane to see.
Right.
My mistake was, and I had a briefcase with 150,000 that I always carry with me, right? It was a Samsonite that had a false bottom. My mistake was not telling that little lieutenant in that little town, hey, listen, man, we got drugs here. Here's $20,000. I'm going to have some people come and pick it up tomorrow.
Right.
That was my mistake.
Yeah.
Because he saw us, and I gave him a couple $100 to take me to a hotel. We gave him my passports so that he would stamp them like we had just come in legally, right?
Right.
And basically what we're going to we're going to go to Costa Rica, which was literally, less than 100 miles away, because we had given $1 million to the president of Costa Rica to become president. And he had just become president, Jorge Valdes.
Your organization paid him that?
Yeah, $1 million. So
does history know that?
Well, I mentioned it 2 or 3 times, but, remember now, I wrote my first book in 1998, And I didn't go into a lot of detail because the purpose of writing the book was not to tell this autobiography or how big I was or anything like that. It was basically to tell my kids who I was. And to get my ex-wife to quit threatening me that she was going to tell the university and everybody who I was. My whole purpose, my whole thought in life was, no one's going to know my past. I got a PhD. I'm respected. I'm a college professor. I'm going to have a bunch of pretty girls begging me for an A. Life is wonderful, right? The big snitch had not been born. Google.
Yeah, right.
So nobody would have known. But
was the point of paying off all these Latin American dictators and presidents so that you could use them for if you needed favors?
No, and we could open laboratories. We can open because this was just the beginning of an explosive era that I did not see.
So you gave the Costa Rican president $1 million just because you knew in the future.
For his campaign, I knew a very close friend of mine who introduced me to ministers of finance because he was a member of the World Bank. This Costa Rican, very close friend of mine that was in our payroll, and he was backing the campaign of Jorge Valdes. So we gave him $1 million for the campaign, and he did. He introduced with me the Minister of Finance in Tortola at that time, a guy named Cyril Rodney, and that's how I met all these people, all this foreign bank account that I opened.
Wow.
Through that gentleman.
Now, what about Noriega?
So when I get arrested in Panama, what ended up happening when they sent the passport to get to Panama City said, the DA had a hold on him. Panama City said, arrest him. He's one of the most notorious drug lords in the world today. Right. How did they know that? My attorney. He had been arrested by bribing a judge and was trading me for that judge. So long story, the Attorney General come to see me. See, recently someone else told the story how it went, but I can tell you the story how it really went because I was there and my brother took the money. The Attorney General came to see me the next day. And I said, don't waste my money, my time, or your time. How much money to get out and how much money to buy the coke back? And he said, $250,000 for you four to get out. And the cocaine, Noriega already sold it. This was just 2 days after being arrested.
So Noriega took the coke that was in the plane that crashed and it already sold it off.
Yeah, that's why they didn't have a gram of it in the court in the U.S.
Hey, kind of saved your ass in a way.
Yeah, they had a picture.
Yeah, right.
Which could have been from anything, right? So we arranged. I gave a number to this guy, this attorney, to call and said, in Miami, my family, my brother, so that he could bring the money over, and that's how it happened. So ended up being that actually Sal, my brother, and another guy brought the money over. They paid the money. So the Attorney General sends me his private attorney, one of his closest friends. So that attorney comes and said, look, everything's been paid. They're going to take you to the city of Panama. They're going to rough you up a little bit. And they just stick to your story. Our story was that we were bringing in guns to fight the Sandinistas. That was our story. I didn't know what was inside that airplane. So he comes and they're going to take you to Panama. My mistake again is I go back to the cell and I tell the two pilots and their boss, Harold Rosenthal, hey, it's all taken care of. We're going home. I already paid the Attorney General, and they're going to take us to Panama, and they're going to rough us up a little bit, and we're going home. All right, all cool. So sure enough, the next day they come, take us to Panama City, right? This is already after Sal and my brother had left Panama. So they take us there, and they put us in a room. It was like, I don't know, maybe 12 feet wide by 30 foot long. Look, a big conference room, empty. 4 chairs against the wall. And we're handcuffed, and we're there. The DA is there, the head of the G2, which is our intelligence agency in Panama. And they bring this kid, about 80 pounds, soaking wet. Looked like he was no more than 80 pounds soaking wet. He was 5'2", naked. Slammed him in the floor, and they took a broomstick and stuck it up his anus. And blood just splattered all over the place. They looked at us and said, we caught him with 50 pounds of marijuana. Now, mind you, we had already 200 some odd kilos of cocaine because we picked up coke in Colombia.
Imagine what's going in your ass.
The two pilots, these two big old 6'2", 6'3" Georgia boys, cracked quickly.
Right.
They're like,
they told the whole story.
we'll tell you. Not only we're not sending these, Jorge Valdes is the biggest drug leader in America, and he bribed the attorney general. So here's the guy that could help me.
Right.
Now on the run.
Yeah.
So they took us to a dungeon, and for the next 15, 20 days, they tortured us 2-3 times a day till they would come and beat us till we would pass out, and then come again and beat us again. And, and I was convinced that I was going to die.
Yeah, they nearly killed you, right?
Yeah.
It's shocking that they didn't actually. I think they were stomping on your head. They were breaking your...
Two things happened. Go back to the words of my parent. My dad used to always say to my brother and I when we were little, son, in life, you got no control whether you're rich or poor. And we're like, no, we can figure that out, right? At 10. Whether you're sick or healthy, dead or alive, there's only one thing in life you got absolute control, your word. And only you can break your word. And once you break it, you're not a man any longer. So that was drained into my head. So here I am with this guy getting beat over and over and over again. Now, mind you, I'm just a 23-year-old kid. I'm not a street kid. I grew up in poverty, but I wasn't in gangs or anything like that. So all of a sudden, and I think it was right after the time that they came and they put electricity to my testicles, and I jumped up about that high and passed out somehow. And I had this vision that I was shaving. And my son was just 6 months old at that time, but was like 5 or 6 in that vision. He comes home crying, looking at me. And I'm like, Georgie, why are you crying? He's like, Dad, because my friend said my father's not a man. And Michael, I swear to you on every Bible today, that moment in time, I made a decision. I will die here, but I will not crack.
Wow. They were trying to get you to confess.
They asked Manny in my interview, did you think he would crack? He said, I was absolutely convinced he would not tell on anyone. Wow. But let me tell you something. No one has any idea how brutal those Latin American countries are, and to what extent they go to get what they want out of you. And it takes, not that I was a very tough guy or nothing like that. It's just that I convinced myself that it was better to die than to live all my life in shame.
And you fought back. You were screaming at him.
Well, the guy that was arrested, that's the mistake they made. They left me in the cell with this guy. He was a real tough guy. I mean, he was a Jewish guy, American, but he was a colonel in the Colombian military forces.
Wow.
I mean, in the guerrillas.
Wow.
And he was a bondsman in Atlanta, and Robert Kennedy called him to bond out Martin Luther King out. The guy was just an unbelievable guy, right? A true gangster, related to Meyer Lansky, and he would tell me, fight back. And I was like, fight back, man. We're handcuffed hands and feet. He says, spit on him, scream at him, talk to him. The more you fight back, the stronger you get. And that was the mistake. Had they separated us, I don't know if I would have just given up and died. Mm-hmm. Because there's just no way to explain. Mm-hmm. Unless you go through some, people say, oh, I can imagine how that feel like. No, I can imagine what a woman goes through when she has a baby. No, cannot imagine. Never had a baby. You have no idea. The mental, you're in a dungeon like Les Mis. Yeah. No light, no food, no bathroom, no water. You pee and poop. After the third day, since you didn't eat, because they didn't feed us for 17, 18 days, there's no, you don't have to even go to the bathroom, thank God. And they just come in, no light, dark, just a little dim light in the hallway, and they just beat you, merciless. And
you were, I think, urinating blood for years after that, right?
For 5 years, every time I piss.
Kidney damage.
I passed blood. And
so after about 3 weeks of this, which is unimaginable, this kind of torture, I think Noriega comes to your cell.
Well, what happened the last time they were coming to, my mission now, this last 3 days, my mission was to get killed. I just want him to kill me, get this over with, because I can't, I'm losing my mind. And there was a kid across the street, across the cells, and he spent all day licking the bar, young kid. And he had been there for 7 months and lost his mind. And I said, I don't want to ever be like that for my parents. I don't want to be that. I want to die. just kept, I was convinced at that time when I entered the world that I would die by 23 anyway. So kill me. It doesn't matter. So I told the guards before me, tell Noriega that if he doesn't kill me, when I get out, he knows I got the power that I'm going to get him and I'm going to his wife and kids in front of him. I knew that would trigger it.
Yeah.
He came the next day laughing.
Yeah, right.
Somebody's laughing.
Yeah. And what's interesting is he was so dirty and so corrupt and a gigantic, one of the biggest drug traffickers of that era as the dictator, the president of Panama. But he was also taking money from the DEA.
Oh, yeah.
And he had to feed people.
He was on the payroll.
So he betrayed you. You said you were going to send money to him. I believe.
Well, he asked me, he walks in, he walks toward the cell, and he says, why are you threatening me? You paid the wrong guy.
Right.
And I said, how much? He said, $250,000.
Done.
I'm like, the same thing? I said, well, that was for 4. Now we got for 2, same price?
Yeah.
And we paid it, the next $250,000. And he says, where do you want to go? I said, Costa Rica. And he's like, all right, tomorrow you're going to Costa Rica. And he took us from the cell. They hosed us down with a fire hose, which hurt more than the torches, by the way. You're naked and they're hosing you down to get all the filth and crud off of you. And he's like, takes us to the airport. And I thought, wow, we made it. And literally, man, within 10 minutes, Interpol, 10 agents. Mm-hmm. Jorge Valdes, Harold Rosenthal. I said, who's asking? Interpol. Come with us. I said, no, I'm waiting for my plane. No, you're not. Your plane's over there. You're going to Miami.